Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
The morning sun cast sharp lines across Marisol Vega's dorm room as she smoothed the wrinkles from her black graduation gown. 22 years old, and she was about to become the first person in her family to walk across a college stage. Her sociology degree from Oregon State University represented 4 years of late nights, part-time jobs, and sacrifice. She checked her phone for the third time in 10 minutes. No messages from her family. "They'll be there," she whispered to her reflection in the small mirror above her dresser. "They promised." The cap felt strange on her head as she adjusted it one final time. Her parents, Caleb and Rosalind, had sworn they'd drive up from their small town 3 hours south. Even Jace, her 19-year-old brother, had promised to come despite his usual complaints about boring family events. Marisol had reserved 4 seats in the family section weeks ago. She'd sent them the parking information, the ceremony schedule, and reminded them twice about the start time. This was her day. Finally, the auditorium buzzed with excited chatter as families found their seats. Marisol sat with her fellow graduates in the front section, craning her neck to spot familiar faces in the crowd. Her stomach twisted when she couldn't find them, but there were so many people. They had to be there somewhere. Marisol Vega. Her name echoed through the speakers as she stood and walked toward the stage. This was it, the moment she'd worked toward for 4 years. The moment that would make every sacrifice worth it. She climbed the steps, her academic hood swaying with each step. The dean smiled and extended his hand, holding her diploma. Behind him, the photographer waited with his camera ready. Marisol turned toward the audience, searching for her family's faces among the sea of people. Her eyes found the section where she'd reserved seats. Empty point, 4 vacant chairs stared back at her like a slap across the face. The polite applause from strangers filled the silence where her family's cheers should have been. The photographer's flash went off, capturing her moment of triumph with a backdrop of abandonment. She shook the dean's hand, accepted her diploma, and walked across the stage. Each step felt mechanical, automatic. The crowd's applause sounded muffled, distant. Her chest tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. She wouldn't break. Not here. Not in front of everyone. She returned to her seat. Her phone buzzed against her leg. Then again. And again. 37 missed calls. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the screen. One text message from her mother. "Come home immediately." The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. Graduates tossed their caps into the air around her, but Marisol barely noticed. She clutched her phone, staring at those 3 words that had replaced her family's presence. When the crowd began to disperse, she walked to the parking lot in a daze. Families surrounded her, taking photos and celebrating. A mother, nearby, wiped tears from her eyes as she hugged her daughter. A father lifted his son off the ground, spinning him around while other relatives clapped and cheered. Marisol unlocked her car and sat behind the wheel, still wearing her cap and gown. She pulled out her phone and called her father. "Dad." "Marisol, thank God. We've been trying to reach you. You need to come home right now." "Where are you? You were supposed to be here. I just graduated." Silence stretched across the line. "Listen, sweetheart, we had to change plans. It's complicated. Just come home, okay? We'll explain everything." "Change plans? You promised you'd be here. I reserved seats for you." I know. We'll make it up to you. Just drive carefully and come straight home." The line went dead. Marisol stared at her phone, her father's dismissive tone ringing in her ears. No congratulations, no apology, no acknowledgement that today mattered at all. She started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, leaving behind the celebration she dreamed of sharing with the people who were supposed to love her most. The 3-hour drive home felt endless. Marisol's graduation gown wrinkled against the driver's seat as she gripped the steering wheel. Her phone sat silent in the passenger seat, no follow-up calls, no explanations, no apologies. She pulled into her childhood driveway as the sun began to set. The house looked dark and quiet. No cars in the driveway except her mother's sedan. Strange. Her father's truck was missing. Marisol walked to the front door, her graduation cap still perched on her head. The key turned easily in the lock, and she stepped inside. "Hello," she called out. "Mom? Dad?" Silence. The living room sat empty, couch cushions still perfectly arranged. The kitchen table held no signs of dinner preparation. But there, on the counter next to the coffee maker, lay a piece of paper with her mother's handwriting. Marisol picked it up, her hands shaking slightly. "Marisol, change of plans. Jace surprised us with a trip to the coast. We'll celebrate you later. Love you." She read the note 3 times, each word hitting harder than the last. A spontaneous trip, while she walked across the stage alone. While she called out for them in an empty house, her phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. With trembling fingers, she opened the app. Her mother's latest post appeared at the top of her feed. A collection of photos from the beach. Caleb and Rosalind grinning in the sand. Jace throwing his arms around both parents. All 3 of them laughing at a seafood restaurant. The caption read, "Family Day at the Coast." #blessed #family time, posted 4 hours ago, right around the time Marisol's name was called at graduation. She scrolled through the comments. Relatives and family friends leaving heart emojis and "looks like fun" responses. Not one person asked where Marisol was. Not one person seemed to notice she was missing from this perfect family portrait. Marisol set her phone on the counter and stared at the note again. "We'll celebrate you later." Like her graduation was just another item on their to-do list. Something they could reschedule, postpone, or handle when more convenient. She walked upstairs to her old bedroom and sat on the edge of her childhood bed, still wearing her cap and gown. The room looked exactly the same as when she'd left for college 4 years ago. Her old sociology textbooks still lined the shelves. The bulletin board still displayed her high school achievements and college acceptance letter. But none of it mattered now. None of it had ever mattered to them. Marisol pulled out her phone and looked at the photos again. Her family looked genuinely happy, relaxed, free, like they were exactly where they wanted to be. Without her, the hurt settled into her chest like a weight she'd been carrying her entire life. As Marisol sat in her childhood bedroom, memories crashed over her like waves. She was 12 again, standing on the auditorium stage at her middle school science fair. Her project on water pollution had taken weeks of research and experimentation. She'd won first place in the environmental science category, and the principal had called her parents to invite them to the award ceremony. "Dad, it starts at 7, she'd said that morning, bouncing on her toes with excitement. "I'll try, sweetheart, but Jace has baseball practice, and Coach said it's really important he doesn't miss it. You understand, right? You're the responsible one." She'd stood on that stage, holding her blue ribbon, searching the sparse audience for her father's face. He never came. Later, she found out Jace's practice had been canceled due to rain, but her father had taken him out for ice cream instead. The memory dissolved into another one. She was 17, working the evening shift at the local diner to save money for college applications. Her hands smelled like grease and her feet ached from standing for 6 hours straight. When she got home, she found Jace playing video games on the couch. "How was work?" her mother had asked absently, not looking up from her magazine. "Fine. Tired." "Well, you're young. You'll bounce back. Unlike some people." Rosalind had gestured toward Jace. "Your brother had such a hard day at school. His chemistry teacher is being unreasonable with the homework load." Marisol had looked at Jace, who was 15 at the time and failing 3 classes. She was carrying a full course load of advanced placement classes, working part-time and maintaining a 4.0 GPA. But Jace was the one who needed understanding. "He's still young, their mother had continued. He needs us to be patient with him. The pattern had been there all along, but Marisol had convinced herself it was temporary. Once Jace grew up, once she proved herself, once she accomplished something truly significant, her parents would see her worth. The final memory hit her like a punch to the gut. She was 20, home for winter break during her junior year. She'd been planning to drive back to school the next morning when Jace stumbled through the front door at 2 a.m., reeking of alcohol and clutching her car keys. "Jace," she called from the top of the stairs, "did you take my car?" "Borrowed it," he'd slurred, tossing the keys onto the kitchen counter. No big deal. But it was a big deal. Her car, the used Honda Civic she'd bought with her own money from working at the diner, sat in the driveway with a massive dent in the passenger side door and shattered taillight. "Jace wrecked my car," she told her parents the next morning. Pointing to the damage, her father had laughed. Actually laughed. Boys will be boys. At least he made it home safe. That's what matters. "Dad, I need that car to get back to school. I need it for work. We'll figure something out. Don't be so dramatic." They'd paid for the repairs, but only after Marisol had missed 3 days of classes and 2 shifts at her campus job. And throughout the entire ordeal, Jace had never apologized. Their parents had never demanded that he apologize. "He's the baby," her mother had said when Marisol finally exploded in frustration. "He needs us to protect him. You're strong. You can handle disappointment. But Jace is sensitive." Sensitive. At 19, Jace was sensitive, while Marisol had been expected to handle adult responsibilities since she was 12. The memories played like a highlight reel of neglect and favoritism. Every missed event, every excuse made for Jace. Every time she'd been told she was the responsible one while he was just young, or still learning, or going through a phase. Now she sat in her childhood bedroom, wearing the cap and gown that represented 4 years of hard work and determination, and her family was at the beach, celebrating Jace's spontaneous idea, posting photos of their perfect family day. Without her, the realization hit her with brutal clarity. They would never see her as equal to Jace. She could graduate summa cum laude, earn a PhD, become President of the United States, and they would still find a way to prioritize his feelings over her achievements. Marisol stood up and walked to her bedroom mirror. The young woman staring back at her had spent 22 years begging for scraps of attention from people who saw her as an afterthought, who loved her conditionally, who would always choose Jace's comfort over her success. "Never again," she whispered to her reflection. The decision crystallized in her mind like ice forming on a winter window. She was done. Done begging for their approval. Done accepting their excuses. Done pretending their love was worth fighting for. They had made their choice. Now she would make hers. Marisol drove back to her college town the next morning, still wearing yesterday's wrinkled clothes. She'd left her parents' house before they returned from their beach trip, taking only her belongings and leaving no note behind. Her off-campus apartment felt like a sanctuary compared to the suffocating disappointment of home. She shared the 2-bedroom place with Naomi Trent, her roommate and closest friend since sophomore year. Naomi was sharp-tongued and fiercely loyal, with plans to attend law school in the fall. "So," Naomi's voice called from the kitchen as Marisol dropped her keys on the entry table. "How was graduation? I thought you weren't coming back until tomorrow." Marisol found Naomi making coffee, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. She wore an oversized Oregon State sweatshirt and had law school prep books scattered across the kitchen table. "They didn't come," Marisol said, simply, that Naomi's hands stilled on the coffee maker. "What do you mean they didn't come?" "I mean, I walked across that stage alone. They went to the beach with Jace instead." "You're kidding me." Naomi turned around, her eyes flashing with anger. "Please tell me you're kidding." Marisol shook her head and showed Naomi the Instagram photos. Her friend's expression grew darker with each image. "What the hell is wrong with them?" Naomi set down her coffee mug with more force than necessary. It's your graduation. Your day. The first college graduate in your family, and they chose a beach trip. Jace surprised them with the idea, apparently. Jace is 19 years old. He's not a child planning a surprise party. He's an adult who knew exactly what he was doing. The validation felt like cool water on a burn. For the first time since yesterday, Marisol didn't feel crazy for being hurt. I'm done with them, Marisol said. I'm not going back. I'm not calling. I'm not pretending this is okay. Naomi studied her friend's face. Good. It's about time. They were interrupted by a knock at the door. Bryce Colton stood on their doorstep, holding a grocery bag and wearing his usual concerned expression. At 24, Bryce worked at the university library and had become like an older brother to both women over the past year. I brought celebration snacks, he announced, then paused when he saw their faces. What happened? Naomi filled him in while Marisol sat at the kitchen table, running her fingers over the wood grain. She felt disconnected from the conversation, like she was watching it happen to someone else. They what? Bryce's voice rose to a pitch Marisol had never heard before. Are you serious right now? Dead serious, Naomi confirmed. Bryce set the grocery bag down and turned to Marisol. I'm sorry. That's inexcusable. It's fine, Marisol started to say, but Bryce cut her off. No, it's not fine. Nothing about this is fine. He began unpacking the bag with sharp, angry movements. You know what? We're celebrating anyway. Without them. Bryce, you don't have to. I'm not asking. We're celebrating your graduation, properly, with people who actually care about your achievements. He'd brought wine, fancy cheese, and chocolate cake from the local bakery. Naomi grabbed plates and glasses, while Bryce opened the wine bottle with unnecessary force. To Marisol Vega, Naomi raised her glass. The smartest, most determined person I know, and the first college graduate in her family, whether they appreciate it or not. To chosen family, Bryce added, the people who show up when it matters. They clinked glasses, and for the first time since yesterday morning, Marisol felt genuinely celebrated. These friends had made more effort for her achievement in 20 minutes than her actual family had in 4 years. You know what the worst part is? Marisol said after her second glass of wine. I kept making excuses for them. Every missed event, every time they chose Jace over me, I told myself it was just circumstances, bad timing. But yesterday proved it was never about timing. It was about priorities. And their priorities suck, Naomi said bluntly. What are you going to do now? Bryce asked. I don't know. I start job interviews next week. I'll figure out the rest as I go. You don't have to figure it out alone, Naomi said. You've got us. The simple statement hit Marisol harder than she expected. She'd spent so many years trying to earn her family support that she'd forgotten what unconditional friendship felt like. They spent the evening sharing stories and making plans for the summer. Bryce told them about a position opening up at the university's community outreach program. Naomi shared her excitement about law school and her plans to focus on family law. I want to help people who've been let down by the people who are supposed to protect them, Naomi explained. People like you, Sol. People who deserve better. As the night wore on, Marisol felt something shift inside her chest. The desperate need for her family's approval was fading, replaced by something stronger, the knowledge that she had people who valued her exactly as she was. Around midnight, Bryce gathered his things to leave. Same time next week, he asked. We could make this a weekly thing. Chosen family dinner. I'd like that, Marisol said. After he left, Naomi turned to her roommate. You're different tonight. Stronger. I feel different. Like I've been holding my breath for 22 years, and I can finally exhale. That's what happens when you stop waiting for people who are never going to show up anyway. The next morning, Marisol's phone rang while she was making breakfast. Her father's name appeared on the screen. She stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Hello, Marisol. There you are. We've been trying to reach you since yesterday. I was here. Listen, we got back from the coast last night, and your mother found your note. We need to talk. What note? The one you left on your bedroom door. Gone back to school. Don't follow me. Very dramatic, sweetheart. Marisol didn't remember writing any note, but she wasn't about to admit that. What do you want, Dad? First, you need to lose the attitude. Second, you should have been with us at the beach. Jace planned this whole trip as a family bonding experience. You would have loved it. The casual dismissal of her graduation hit her like a physical blow. I had my graduation yesterday. I know. We'll do something special for you next weekend. Maybe dinner at that restaurant you like. The ceremony was yesterday. You can't reschedule graduation. Don't be so rigid, Marisol. Life happens. You have to learn to go with the flow. She almost laughed at the irony. Her entire childhood had been about going with the flow, adapting to their priorities, making herself smaller so Jace could be bigger. Where are you calling from? She asked. Home. We just finished breakfast. Your mother made those pancakes Jace likes. Of course she did. Anyway, Caleb continued, we need you to come home this weekend. Your Aunt Patricia is driving down from Portland, and she wants to see you before you start your job search. I'm not coming home. Silence stretched across the line. Excuse me. I said I'm not coming home. Not this weekend. Not ever. Marisol, what's gotten into you? You're acting like a child. A child? I'm 22 years old. I just graduated from college. I'm the furthest thing from a child in this family. Don't take that tone with me. Family comes first, and you know that. Family comes first. The words exploded out of her. Where was my family yesterday? Where was family when I walked across that stage alone? We explained that. Jace needed what? A vacation? A spontaneous trip? What did Jace need that was more important than my graduation? Her father's voice grew sharp. He needed his family. He's been going through a rough patch, and he's 19 years old. When I was 19, I was working 2 jobs and maintaining a full course load. But sure, let's all drop everything because Jace is having feelings. That's enough. You're being selfish and ungrateful. After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me? The question came out quiet, deadly. Name one thing you've done for me that you didn't do for Jace first, better, and with more enthusiasm. Another long silence. We love you both equally, Caleb said finally. No, you don't, and I'm done pretending you do. Marisol, if you hang up this phone. What? You'll drive to the beach without me? You'll miss my next graduation? Oh wait, you already did that. She could hear him getting angry now, his voice rising the way it always did when he felt challenged. You don't turn your back on family. I don't care how upset you are. Watch me. She hung up. Naomi appeared in the kitchen doorway, holding a cup of coffee and wearing a proud expression. How much of that did you hear? Marisol asked. All of it, and I'm impressed. That's the first time I've ever heard you stand up to him. It felt good. Really good. Her phone started ringing again. Caleb's name appeared on the screen. Marisol declined the call and blocked his number. Then she blocked her mother's number. Then Jace's. Damn, Naomi said, watching over her shoulder. You're not messing around. I told them I was done. I meant it. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is your mother. We need to talk. Call me back immediately. Marisol blocked that number too. How do you feel? Naomi asked. Marisol considered the question. She expected to feel guilty or scared or uncertain. Instead, she felt light, free, like she'd been carrying a heavy backpack for years and had finally set it down. "I feel like myself," she said. "For the first time in my life, I feel like myself." That afternoon, Marisol sat at her laptop with a cup of coffee and a head full of determination. She opened her Facebook account and began typing. "Yesterday, I became the first person in my family to graduate from college. I walked across that stage alone because my family chose a spontaneous beach trip over my graduation ceremony. I've spent 22 years trying to earn their love and attention, but I'm done waiting for people who will never see my worth. To everyone who has supported me during my college journey, thank you. You mean more to me than you know. And to my fellow first-generation students, your achievements matter, even when your family doesn't understand them. Don't let anyone diminish your success." She attached her official graduation photo, the one where she stood alone on stage, holding her diploma with a forced smile. Her finger hovered over the post button for several minutes. Once she shared this, there would be no taking it back. Her family's friends, relatives, and acquaintances would see it. People in her hometown would know exactly what had happened. Good. She clicked post. Within minutes, comments began appearing. Friends from college expressing shock and support. Professors offering congratulations. Even casual acquaintances sharing their own stories of family disappointment. Then her extended family started commenting. "Marisol, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they weren't there. Aunt Patricia, this breaks my heart. You deserved so much better. Cousin Jennifer, I'm disgusted. How could they miss such an important day? Great Aunt Susan." The comments kept coming. Family members she rarely spoke to were expressing outrage and disappointment in her parents. People were sharing the post, spreading it beyond her immediate network. Her phone started ringing. Unknown numbers that she didn't answer. Text messages from relatives asking for details. Naomi found her still at the laptop 2 hours later, watching the reactions pour in. "How's it going?" Naomi asked, reading over her shoulder. "Better than I expected. Worse than my parents are going to like." "Good. Let them squirm." By evening, the post had been shared dozens of times. Local friends were commenting. People from her hometown were weighing in, and the story was spreading through their small community like wildfire. Marisol's phone rang. The caller ID showed her Aunt Patricia's number. "Hi, Aunt Patricia. Sweetheart, I just saw your post. I'm so angry I can barely speak. How could they do this to you?" They had their priorities. Jace wanted to go to the beach. Jace is a grown man, and even if he weren't, your graduation should have come first. I'm calling your father right now. You don't have to do that. Oh, I absolutely do. This is unacceptable. The whole family is talking about it. Everyone is horrified. After she hung up, Marisol felt a grim satisfaction. For once, her parents would be the ones fielding uncomfortable questions. For once, they would be the ones making excuses and explaining their choices. Her laptop chimed with a new comment notification. This one was from someone she didn't recognize, a woman named Helen Rodriguez. "I don't know you personally, but your story moved me to tears. I work for the Phoenix Foundation, and we specialize in supporting first-generation college students. Would you be interested in learning about some opportunities we have available? Please message me if you'd like to discuss." Marisol clicked on Helen's profile. She worked for a nonprofit organization that provided mentorship and career support for students from underrepresented backgrounds. Their mission statement talked about empowering young people who had overcome significant obstacles to achieve their educational goals. She sent Helen a private message. "Hi, Helen. Thank you for reaching out. I'd love to learn more about the Phoenix Foundation. My contact information is..." As she typed, Marisol realized something had shifted. For the first time since graduation, she felt excited about the future instead of dwelling on the disappointment of the past. Her phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number. "This is Jace. Mom is crying. Dad is furious. Take down that post right now." Marisol read the message twice, then deleted it without responding. Let them cry. Let them be furious. Let them face the consequences of their choices for once. She closed her laptop and smiled. Tomorrow, she would start building the life she deserved with people who valued her achievements and celebrated her success. The people who had abandoned her on her most important day would not be invited to witness her rise. A week passed before Marisol heard from her family again. She spent the time job searching, apartment hunting for post-graduation, and following up on the conversation with Helen Rodriguez from the Phoenix Foundation. Her phone remained blissfully quiet. No more unknown numbers. No more guilt-inducing messages. Just peace. Then Naomi burst through the apartment door Wednesday evening, grinning like she'd won the lottery. "You need to see this," she announced, pulling out her phone. "My mom just sent me screenshots from Facebook. Your post is still making waves." Naomi's mother lived in the same county as Marisol's family, 2 towns over. She showed Marisol a post from the local community page. "Anyone else see what happened with the Vega family? That poor girl graduated college, and they skipped it for a beach trip. Shameful." The comments section was brutal. "I've known that family for years. Caleb and Roslyn always favored that boy. Marisol was such a good student. She deserved better." The girl worked her way through college while that brother of hers partied, and they still chose him over her big day. "I heard Roslyn was crying at the grocery store yesterday when someone asked her about it." Marisol felt a dark satisfaction reading each comment. Her family's carefully crafted image of being close-knit and loving was crumbling in real time. "Oh, it gets better," Naomi continued, scrolling to another screenshot. "This is from your church's Facebook page." The post was from Marisol's childhood pastor, announcing upcoming graduation celebrations for congregation members. Several comments asked why Marisol's graduation hadn't been mentioned, leading to an uncomfortable exchange where church members realized her family hadn't attended. "Mrs. Henderson from your mom's book club posted this," Naomi said, showing another screenshot. She said, and I quote, "Some parents don't deserve the children they have." The social pressure was working exactly as Marisol had hoped. In a small community where reputation mattered, her parents were facing judgment from every corner. Their friends, their church, their neighbors, everyone was questioning their priorities and their parenting. "How do you feel about all this?" Naomi asked. "Satisfied," Marisol said honestly. "For 22 years, I was the one who felt ashamed. Ashamed that I wasn't good enough, interesting enough, important enough to earn their attention. Now they get to feel ashamed for once." Her phone rang. Bryce's name appeared on the screen. "Hey," she answered. "Sol, you need to hear this. I was at the coffee shop near campus, and I overheard 2 girls talking about your graduation story. Turns out one of them is from your hometown and knows your brother." "What were they saying?" "Apparently Jace has been getting grief from his friends about it. Someone showed him your Facebook post, and now everyone knows he's the reason your family missed your graduation. The girl said he's been in a bad mood all week because people keep asking him about it. Good. Let him feel uncomfortable. Let him face questions about his selfishness." "Did she say anything else?" "Yeah. She said some of his friends think he's spoiled and inconsiderate. One guy apparently told him he needs to grow up and stop letting his parents treat his sister like garbage." After Bryce hung up, Marisol felt a sense of justice settling into her bones. The truth was spreading, and everyone could see exactly who her family really was. No more hiding behind excuses or justifications. No more pretending their behavior was normal or acceptable. Her laptop chimed with an email notification. It was from Helen Rodriguez at the Phoenix Foundation. "Dear Marisol, thank you for our phone conversation yesterday. After reviewing your background and academic achievements, we would like to offer you a position in our First Generation Success Fellowship Program. This is a paid position that includes mentoring opportunities, professional development, and the chance to help other students who have faced similar challenges. Your story of resilience and determination is exactly what we look for in our fellows. Please let me know if you're interested in moving forward with the formal application process. Marisol read the email 3 times, hardly believing what she was seeing. A paid fellowship position, working with other first-generation students, using her experience to help people who had faced similar struggles. Her graduation story, the worst day of her life, was opening doors she never could have imagined. She immediately typed back, "Dear Helen, yes, I'm very interested in the fellowship program. Thank you for considering me. I would love to move forward with the application process." As she hit send, Marisol realized something profound had happened. By refusing to hide her family's failure, by refusing to make excuses for their behavior, she had found her path forward. The people who mattered could see her worth. The people who didn't matter were exactly where they belonged in her past. Saturday morning arrived with unexpected drama. Marisol was drinking coffee and reviewing fellowship application materials when someone pounded on her apartment door. "Marisol, open this door right now." Her father's voice, angry and demanding. Naomi emerged from her bedroom, hair messy and eyes wide. "Is that?" "Yeah." Marisol stood up slowly, her heart racing, but her resolve firm. "It's him." The pounding continued. "I know you're in there. We need to talk." "You don't have to answer it," Naomi said quietly. "Yes, I do. This ends today." Marisol walked to the door and opened it. Caleb stood on her doorstep, face red with anger. Behind him, Rosalind wrung her hands nervously, and Jace slouched against the porch railing with his arms crossed. Finally, Caleb snapped, "You've been ignoring us for 2 weeks." "I blocked your numbers. That was intentional. Don't get smart with me. You're going to take down that post right now, and you're going to apologize to your mother for embarrassing the whole family." Marisol stepped outside and closed the door behind her, not inviting them in. "I'm not taking down anything, and I'm not apologizing for telling the truth." "The truth?" Rosalind spoke up, her voice shaky. "You made us look like terrible parents. People at church won't even look at me anymore." "Maybe because you were terrible parents, at least on the day that mattered most." Caleb's face grew redder. "We explained this already." Jace needed. "Stop." Marisol held up her hand. "I don't want to hear about what Jace needed. I don't care what Jace needed. You made your choice, and I made mine." "What choice?" Jace spoke for the first time, pushing himself off the railing. "To throw a tantrum on social media like a 12-year-old. To tell the truth about what kind of family I have, or had." "You don't turn your back on family," Caleb said, stepping closer. "I don't care how upset you are. Family is family. Family shows up. Family celebrates your achievements. Family puts your needs first occasionally. You did none of those things." "We've always supported you," Rosalind protested. "We paid for your textbooks. We helped with your car payments. You did the bare minimum required to keep me functional. That's not support. That's maintenance." Jace laughed harshly. "Listen to yourself. You sound pathetic. So we missed one ceremony. Big deal. Get over it." Marisol turned to face her brother directly. "One ceremony? This wasn't a school play or a piano recital. This was my college graduation, the biggest achievement of my life. And you convinced them to skip it for a beach trip." "I didn't convince anyone of anything. I suggested we take a family trip and they said yes. If your graduation was so important, maybe you should have planned it better." "Planned it better?" The words came out in a dangerous whisper. "I gave you the date 6 months ago. I sent reminders. I reserved seats. I did everything except drag you there myself." "Well, maybe you should have," Jace said with a smirk. The casual cruelty in his voice hit her like a slap. This was who he really was. This was who they all really were. Selfish, dismissive, and completely unwilling to take responsibility for their choices. "You know what?" Marisol said, her voice growing stronger. I'm glad you missed it. I'm glad you showed me exactly where I stand in this family. It made my decision really easy. What decision? Caleb demanded. The decision to cut all of you out of my life permanently. Silence fell over the group. You don't mean that, Rosalind whispered. I absolutely mean it. You chose him over me one too many times. Now I choose myself. Marisol, please, her mother continued. We love you. We're sorry we missed your graduation, but we can't change the past. You're not sorry you missed it. You're sorry people found out you missed it. There's a difference. Caleb stepped forward again. Enough. You're going to stop this nonsense and come home. We're family, and family forgives each other. Forgiveness requires accountability. None of you have taken responsibility for what you did. You've just made more excuses. We don't need to take responsibility for anything, Jay snapped. You're being dramatic as usual. Dramatic. Marisol laughed, but there was no humor in it. I worked 4 years for that degree. I graduated summa cum laude. I was the first person in our family to walk across a college stage. And you think celebrating that achievement was less important than your impulse to go to the beach? It was one day, Rosalind said weakly. It was the most important day of my life, and you weren't there. So what now? Caleb asked. You're going to punish us forever because we made one mistake. This wasn't one mistake. This was the final mistake in a lifetime of putting Jace first. I'm done being the afterthought in this family. You're not an afterthought, Rosalind protested. Yes, I am. And I'm okay with that now because it means I don't have to waste any more time trying to matter to people who will never see my worth. She turned to go back inside, but Caleb grabbed her arm. Don't you walk away from me. Marisol looked down at his hand on her arm, then back up at his face. Let go of me. Not until you agree to fix this mess you've made. The only mess here is the family that raised me to believe I was worth less than my brother. Let go of me now. Something in her voice must have warned him, because he dropped his hand. This conversation is over, Marisol said. Don't come back here. Don't contact me. Don't show up at my job or my new apartment. I'm done with all of you. You'll change your mind, Jay said. You always do. No, I won't, because I finally understand that you're not my family. You're just people I'm related to. And the people I'm related to have spent 22 years showing me that I don't matter to them. She opened her apartment door. Marisol, wait, Rosalind called out, tears in her eyes. I waited 22 years. I'm done waiting. She stepped inside and closed the door, turning the deadbolt with a decisive click. Through the door, she could hear them arguing with each other, their voices fading as they walked back to their car. Naomi appeared beside her, offering a cup of fresh coffee. How do you feel? She asked. Marisol considered the question. Her hands weren't shaking. Her chest didn't feel tight. The desperate need for their approval was gone, replaced by something solid and unshakable. Free, she said. I feel completely free. 3 months later, Marisol stood in the conference room of the Phoenix Foundation, looking out at 24 first-generation college students who had gathered for the Foundation's summer intensive program. She wore a navy blue blazer and carried herself with the confidence of someone who had found her purpose. My name is Marisol Vega, she began, and I'm a first-generation success fellow here at the Foundation. I want to start today by telling you about the worst day of my life, which turned out to be the first day of my real life. She told them about her graduation, about walking across the stage alone, about finding the note on the kitchen counter and the beach photos on Instagram. The students listened with rapt attention, many nodding in recognition. How many of you have family members who don't understand what you've accomplished? She asked. Nearly every hand went up. How many of you have been told you're being dramatic or ungrateful when you expected support for your achievements? More hands. How many of you have been made to feel guilty for wanting recognition for your hard work? Almost every hand in the room. Then you're in the right place, Marisol said, because this program is about building the support system you deserve, not the one you were born into. After the session, Marisol walked back to her office, where Helen Rodriguez was waiting with a smile. How was the orientation? Helen asked. Perfect. These students need to know they're not alone. Speaking of which, I have some news. Professor Whitford from Oregon State called. She wanted to thank you for being so open about your experience. Apparently, your story has inspired the university to create a new support program for first-generation students whose families aren't supportive of their education. Marisol felt a surge of pride. Professor Helene Whitford had been one of her favorite mentors during college, someone who had always believed in her potential. That's incredible, Marisol said. I'd love to be involved if they need any input. I think they're counting on it. She also mentioned that your graduation story has been shared in several academic circles as an example of how family dynamics can impact student success. You're becoming something of a case study. The irony wasn't lost on Marisol. The day her family had abandoned her was now helping other students feel less alone in their struggles. Her phone buzzed with a text from Naomi, who is thriving in her first year of law school. Saw your interview in the Foundation newsletter. You're famous. Proud of you, Soul. Another text came from Bryce. Coffee later? I want to hear about the new program. These were her people now. The ones who showed up. The ones who celebrated her victories and supported her dreams. A.S. She settled at her desk to review applications for the next fellowship cohort. Marisol reflected on how completely her life had changed. The girl who had begged for scraps of attention from people who saw her as an obligation was gone. In her place was a woman who knew her worth and surrounded herself with people who recognized it too. Her computer chimed with an email notification. For a moment, her heart jumped. Old habits died hard, but it was just another fellowship application from a student whose story sounded remarkably familiar. Dear Ms. Vega, I'm writing to apply for the First Generation Success Fellowship. I recently graduated from college, but my family didn't attend my graduation because they said my younger sibling needed their support more. Your story gave me hope that I'm not alone in this experience. Marisol smiled and immediately began crafting her response. This student would not walk their path alone the way she had. That evening, she met Naomi and Bryce at their favorite restaurant near campus. They'd kept their weekly dinner tradition even after graduation, with Naomi driving down from law school whenever possible. So, Bryce said as they clinked glasses, any word from the family? Radio silence, Marisol confirmed. It's been 3 months since they showed up at my apartment. Good, Naomi said firmly. How's the fellowship going? Better than I ever imagined. We're expanding the program next year. Helen wants me to lead the family dynamics workshops. Using your expertise in dysfunctional family dynamics. Bryce asked with a grin. Exactly. Turns out my childhood was good for something after all. As they talked and laughed over dinner, Marisol felt the deep satisfaction of a life well lived. She had built something beautiful from the ashes of her family's betrayal. She had turned her pain into purpose and her isolation into connection. Later that night, back in her apartment, Marisol hung up her blazer and noticed the framed photo on her dresser. It was her official graduation photo, the one where she stood alone on stage, holding her diploma. She'd had it professionally printed and framed, not as a reminder of abandonment, but as proof of her strength. Below it sat a collection of thank you cards from fellowship students, photos from foundation events, and a handwritten note from Professor Whitford praising her work with first-generation students. This was her legacy, not the family who had failed her, but the family she had chosen and the students she was helping to build their own chosen families. Her phone sat quiet on the nightstand. No missed calls from unknown numbers. No guilt-inducing messages. No demands for forgiveness, she didn't know. Just peace. Marisol smiled as she turned off the lights. Tomorrow, she would wake up in a life she had built entirely on her own terms, surrounded by people who valued her exactly as she was. The people who had left her standing alone on the most important day of her life would never be invited to witness the incredible life she had built without them. And that was exactly how she wanted it.